こんばんは。
Hello,
Hello.
Oksana. Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Oh, I'm great, and you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. A little warm tonight.
Oh my God, I'm so excited starting this art talk because I was just also looking through your website, and
Yeah,
my God, I just cannot describe my feelings because it's like falling in love, you know? A very
thank
long
you.
love, fall in love.
Thank, thank you so much.
I have so many things to talk about with you, so like, let's
Yeah,
start.
sure.
Yes, thank you
And
very much for.
yeah, sorry, I
Mhm.
was just going to say, you're in Tokyo?
Uh, I'm in Yokohama. I live in Yokohama, but I work in Tokyo.
Ah,
Uh,
beautiful. I know
yeah,
very well, yeah. Fantastic.
yes. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation for this interview, like art talk. Let's call it like this. And could you please introduce yourself for people who maybe don't know about you? Like,
Okay, yeah. My name is Colin Burn. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. I've been a jeweller for about 35 years, a fine jeweller. And through my work in jewelry, I've transformed into just working with art now. I don't really do jewelry anymore as such, like
mhm.
your normal jewelry like rings and things. So over that time, I've always been a creative jeweler. Like through that period of my life, I always saw it in a different light. A lot of people would just go for the commercial light and will tend to look at jewelry and just try and make something that's pretty and beautiful. And of course, that's the objective. But I always saw it in a different light. So I wanted to use the medium of jewelry to explore the art world. And so I'm a little bit of a late career artist. I'm 57 years old, and
Oh,
it's only been in the last sort of probably about 5 years that I've really focused on creating more and more contemporary and
mhm.
art based work.
Oh. Oh, you don't look like this. Like you look very young. And
Thank you.
and you've been like, why did you decide to change your 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 intention? Like because you, I understand you were making creating the rings and like the ordinary jewelry, but why did you? What was the point when you decided like I'm going to change this and create something new?
Yeah, I think even back to the beginning, like I started my career in 1979, which is a long time ago, and I was an apprentice electroplater. So basically, it's the science of coating objects with gold and silver.
Mhm.
So that's where it all started for me, and then from that, I then become a jeweler after I'd done my formal training.
Mhm.
Um, and throughout that whole process, I always looked at the creative side. Like there's the definite formal training within jewelry,
Mhm.
and of course I learnt the techniques. But my mind was never satisfied with just creating jewelry. It always had to be different. It always had to be for more of a purpose. Like making engagement rings and traditional jewelry just really wasn't the thing that really
Mhm.
inspired me. So
Mhm.
even my jewelry works were always creative, always different. I tried to do things that no one else was doing. So even
Mhm.
through my jewelry career, I really explored more of the artistic side. And it's
Mhm.
just when I got later in life, my children grew up and got them through college and everything you do.
Mhm.
And I thought it's my time now to really explore more of my artistic side and put the commercial work to one side and really
Mhm.
focus on the art. So that's sort of how it's all worked out for me.
Wow, it's wonderful. You felt free finally.
I do. I am. Well, I got married very young, and my kids. I've got 4 children, so it was a bit of a
Wow.
job, raising the 4 kids and putting them through school and doing everything we
Yeah.
do when we're parents. So once that was all done, and they've made their own way in the world, and they're
Mhm.
doing really well. I felt it was time to really explore the work that I always wanted to do, but never really had the time to do. So really that's what the rest of my life will be now, because I'm very passionate about what I make. I make art for purpose. I believe that the time that I have left, I want to spend wisely and create art that has deep meaning and its purpose, and that's really what I set out to do now.
Wow, it's very inspiring. Like, just
thank you.
I'm very glad for you, like that you are now like flourishing in your like passion.
It's time.
Yes, it's time. Golden age came.
Yeah. But the good thing too is, in probably being a later career artist, is that the experience that I've grown within the techniques that I've learned, and that's really all behind me now, so I can really fall upon that and use those techniques to create really good quality art. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, sometimes you have an idea, but you have no skills. Like it may be a problem. Like you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to, and you are starting like, but I cannot paint, or I cannot like make sculpture, and it's a problem. But you have foundation, very strong foundation. Now you can build something incredible.
And that's what I try to do too, because I try to do the majority work myself. As an artist, you know, there's always the point where you can bring in outside help to do a particular part of the art that you may not be trained in. But I'm fairly well-rounded, I think, luckily through my career. It's given me a good basis, so that most things that I challenge I can actually do with my own hands. And that's really exciting, because the limitation then is really only your mind.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask you, where did you get your inspiration from? Because you have so many different concepts, you're touching so like very serious topics in your artwork.
Sure.
And what inspires you?
I think for me it's really life itself. A lot of my work are through the works that I create are from life experience and my journey in life. And I'm a big observer. I really like to observe and like to watch and sit back. And sometimes some of my most enjoyable times are just sitting maybe in a hotel or a pub, as we call them in Australia, and just watching the world go by and observing social behaviour and social concepts. And then, you know, my mind is always active. I've just got one of those active minds. And if I see a subject that I like or a topic, I really want to explore it. I want to dive deep into it. And so that's really how I get my inspiration. It's really just, obviously, like most people, everything that surrounds us, what we pull from that and how we see it, and how we also see it in a different light. Because, you know, sometimes we just see something as one-dimensional. I really want to explore all dimensions within the different things that I see. And so, yeah, you are right. I've explored a variety of different topics. But my career was a little like that. So I think it just mirrors, my art now is mirroring my former career, because throughout my journey in the past, it was very much like that as well. So all the different projects that I did within jewellery and also promotion and marketing. And so I've been very blessed. I've had a wonderful life, and I've got to travel the world and see some amazing things. So through all of that experience, I really drew upon that, and that's where I find the inspiration to create my work.
I see. And I mentioned that you like Eastern cultures, like China, Japan, and I know
I do very much.
I know that you spent some time in Japan. What you've been doing here?
Yeah, it's kind of, Japan's almost, I feel like it's a second home to me. I was very lucky in my very early career, when I was only about 30 years old. My work that I was doing at the time was selected by the Japanese government, and I was taken to Japan on 2 occasions by a program called JETRO, the Japan External Trade Organisation. So they brought my works to Japan, and they exhibited for me and helped me enter the Japanese market and find buyers for my work. So at that point in my life, I was literally blown away. I thought, this is amazing. Japan reached out to me. It was like it was meant to be, and I fell in love with Japan. And I've been going back and forward for 20 and 30 years now. So it was 93, I think, was my first visit. And I had an office in the Ginza at one stage in Tokyo, and I had an apartment not far from Roppongi. So I just really loved the I just love the culture of Japan, and it's just something that felt close to my heart. And by observing the cultural differences between Australia and Japan, it really inspired me to create a lot of my work, and a lot of my erotic art really come from that time and that period in Japan, and from a piece of work who's probably the one artist that I really love the most is Hokusai. And some of his work, I mean, it's just such beautiful work. And the Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, that was very interesting to me, that piece of work. And from that, I really started to draw upon different views and concepts towards eroticism. So in time, I've now created Treasure the Erotic, and teamed up with a really good friend and fellow artist called Aaron McPolan, who does beautiful visual narratives. And so, yeah, we've got a lovely body of work that all really stemmed from that first journey to Japan.
Yes, you have very, very great collaboration. You so tuned, the atmosphere, it's incredible harmony of your works and his photographs, and I was
thank you.
impressed. Yes, and so your first work in this series was actually this Hokusai Sleeping, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
it was actually, it was probably the second work. The first one was when I started exploring eroticism as an art form. It was really, as a jeweler, I was looking at making erotic objects in a more luxurious way. And I had to have at that point, this was back in 2004, and I was looking, do I make them for a commercial product, or do I have fun and create art? And I wanted to create art. I was not interested in just making commercial product. So that's where it really started. My first piece was the Casanova, which you'll see in Treasure the Erotic. That was and I just want to bring that life. I love Bulgari jewelry. I was always inspired by Bulgari and Italian passion. So I created that piece first, and then it was the Hokusai piece after spending time in Japan, and the body of work started to grow from there.
I like myself the figure of Casanova and his life. Have you read his autobiography?
I've read a lot of his story, and I love the point where he says, I think it was that he wanted to live. He was 70, I think, at the time, and he wanted to live another 50 years or something because he thought the work up until that point wasn't good enough. And it's quite humble, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, I can't quote it word for word, but I read it many years ago, and it really inspired me. And I love the woodblock prints. I love that era in Japan, and even when I go to Japan, I always buy something like that, or I go to a traditional block printer, and I really love that concept and that feel to the art. So that was one of the things that really started everything. Yeah.
Yes, Japan is it was in that period of Edo period. It was so open, about sexuality, and it was normal to sell kind of these prints, not in the Western world.
No, well, it was unfortunately. It was unfortunately the Western world. It was the Western world that kind of oppressed all of that by coming into Japan, and I think it was the early 20s. And I think from memory, a lot of the Western art collectors depicted the work as pornographic, and it was more derogatory, the description of that image. But it's not that way, and that's what I wanted to right the wrong. I felt there was a story to be told. And a lot of the work with Treasure the Erotic, and the reason it's called Treasure the Erotic, is that as I was exploring this work, I kept getting pushback from people to say, why would you make such an expensive object for sex? And as if it had no value. So that really, as an artist, that really sort of got my shackles up, and I thought, I've got to go harder. I want to make a point here. So there seemed to be this devaluing of our humanism and our sexuality and our eroticism. So I thought, well, if I make an object full of gold and full of diamonds, it simply cannot be devalued. Because no matter your thought, no matter your way you perceive it, you can't. Gold and diamonds have an intrinsic value. You can't devalue that. So that was the basis behind the art, was to put so much, value into the art that it simply cannot be devalued. And it really challenged people's minds and their thinking about how we should value our sexuality and how much it really does mean to us. And then we've got off and explored different sanctums, like with Aaron and myself. I created 8 unique pieces, and then I trusted Aaron. He come in and he did the original photographs of the pieces, and then we decided to team up and collaborate. And it was a little bit challenging at the time because I had to just give it to him and say, you interpret it and you bring it back. You bring back your work to see how it flowed. And it was just joy to watch because it come together like you were saying earlier. And it was beautiful the way it come together for the both of us. So I think it's a beautiful body of work. We've just produced a book, a Treasure the Erotic book that's now available. And yeah, so it's now getting some momentum.
Yes. Oh my God. I was just telling you that I was watching this, like reading. You also describe your art very beautifully. You just because it's so sometimes artists they create, but they cannot describe it, and you do it very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of that. We did an exhibition in Beverly Hills in 2019. August 2019, and we first put the work on display. So it's not long after that we had the COVID problem. So Aaron and myself, we already had all the thoughts and the feelings of the work, and we had to articulate. it. So as bad as the COVID's been for everybody in the world, it made Aaron and myself sit down for a good 2 or 3 months, and then we created the website. And we really worked heavily on the narrative and really expressed everything that we were feeling and thinking so that we could describe that so that people could really understand the concept of the art. And it was, as an artist, you really don't want to give over everything. You don't really want to explain everything. You want people to draw that themselves. But I think with this body of work, it needed it. It was important that it was explained correctly so that people could better understand what we were trying to do.
Yes, people used to interpret in their own way, as you said.
Sure, yeah. But this body of work, I think it could get dangerous if they do. And so normally I'd be a little bit more reserved in explaining the finer detail. But in this work, I think it was important to fully narrate that so that people could really understand the importance of this work.
And I was wondering, how much time does it take to create one piece of work?
The initial setup, like any jewelry making process, there's mouldings and there's castings and there's the original artwork that we do. I use traditional methods as well as new methods like CAD drawing. So I can draw. Usually what I do, I start out with making a drawing in pencil, a sketch, and then from the sketch I'll either carve it, or in turn, then I'll do it on CAD and then we print. And then once we've got that mould, then we can start creating, casting, electroforming. So I use different techniques to a lot of jewellery makers. Luckily, through my original apprenticeship that I did, I learnt the art of electroforming. And it's through electroplating, like covering something with silver or gold, is a fairly common practice in metal finishing. But I took it one step further. I invented my own process to coat like a flower or a leaf or a human hair. So I could take a strand of your hair and cover it with gold. And so that was my original business when I was only a young guy. I started my first business at 22. And I had this jewellery factory, and I had tour groups coming and buying my work, and that led to the Japanese government seeing my work. So that technology I learned way back then, and a lot of it I invented myself, I now use in the creation of my art. So I'm not sure if you can see this little guy here. Yeah, this one here, I'm not sure you can see on the camera.
Yes, yes,
Um,
indeed.
I'm trying to pick him up. He's not finished yet.
Oh, is it a new artwork?
This is a new artwork, yeah. So
Oh,
this is what I'm currently working on. That is a real rose. That's an actual genuine rose.
and you just covered
And
it with.
yeah, we covered it with bronze, and I've done the skull, not a real skull. We carved the skull, and then I've coated it with bronze.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another piece to come to this yet. I'm working on the base now,
Mm-hmm.
and this piece of art speaks to romance, and it's called Romance Past.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that in the modern world, you know, in the online dating sites, it's a little bit like selecting from the butcher, you know, and we're not really going to the dance anymore. We're not going to the school dance
Yeah.
so there's a lot, I feel, from my generation has been lost in the current world. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've called this Romance Past. So he's got the rose in his mouth. He's crying tears of aquamarines. I've set aquamarine stones in his eye sockets, and he'll have a really big, beautiful base that's going to it'll look like ice.
Mm-hmm.
So and the base will be a recognisable symbol of the modern dating sites, and it will be like a block of ice. So it reflects on the warmth of the past, and it's just my feelings. You know, I know the world's not all like that, but it's just my way of speaking to a past romance.
Yes, I
So
totally,
that's the current thing.
I totally understand this concept. I was just, I heard from someone about this because everything became so like easy. We can do something like we can watch TV and scroll like Tinder, you know, and people don't like put any efforts like to
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
find a.
swipe.
Yes, like it's so.
Yeah, I mean, it's making everything convenient for people, but at the same time, we lose a bit of our humanity, and I think we lose that closeness and the feeling of the warmth. So I put this out as a statement piece. A lot of my work is symbolism. So whenever I create a piece of art, I do like it to symbolise something. That tends to be where I naturally go. So this piece is very much in that vein.
I'm wondering if like the colors of the rose they change with time or like.
No, that will stay that way. Because what I've done is I've preserved the rose. The rose is actually is preserved, and then over top of that, with the work that I do, I coat it with like a copper metal, then I bronze it.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes the real rose is still encased forever. It'll stay that way forever. And then I've coloured the bronze on the end to give it the red colour, and I've used and I've used the tarnishing method to give the green sort of feel to the bronze, so that it's got that sort of still alive feel. And even the skull has a warmth to it. I chose, it's like a rose gold colour, and I wanted that for the warmth. So I didn't want it to feel like it's dead. I still wanted it to feel like it is still alive, but it's past. And that's the emotion I wanted the art to have. And the base will be quite cold, which is reflective of what I feel some of these dating sites are like. And yeah, so that's kind of where the art's going and what it speaks to.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun making this piece.
You know, I have a story when I first came to Paris. What was my first like morning in Paris, and I was just walking, and everything was so beautiful, like clean on Sunday, and people were still like partying at the bars, and I was just walking and saw the red beautiful rose on the street, and I thought, oh my God, it's Paris. Like, so romantic.
It's meant to be.
And when I saw
wow.
I was like, oh, actually, yesterday I had a thought like I wanted to buy red rose, but I didn't find it. Oh my God, I felt your.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful symbol, isn't it? I mean, it's the symbol. And we've got Valentine's Day coming up on the 14th, so this piece will be finished for that. I'm sitting in our gallery at the moment in Perth. We're actually very lucky in Western Australia because while COVID has really ravaged the world, it didn't really affect us too bad here in Perth. We isolated very quickly, and now everybody in Western Australia is free to move around. as we were normal. So we're very lucky. We've still got a lot of border restrictions from the eastern side of Australia coming into Western Australia. So that's allowed us to really, whilst we can't go outside of that, like if I wanted to go back to America now, I really couldn't. The fact that we have the freedom at the moment is really a blessing. So we've got the Fringe Festival coming up. Here our gallery here is in the After Dark Gallery in Perth. And the Fringe Festival's probably the biggest art festival that Perth has. I think it's the third biggest Fringe Festival in the world. And then into the later part of February, we have the Perth Arts Festival. So Fringe is more about performance art, and the art festival is more about sculptural, painting and all the arts. So it's an exciting time. So even though, COVID is with us, but we can still have our little art month in Perth, and it's exciting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Are you going to exhibit your artworks there?
Yes, we'll have the exhibits here at the gallery during Fringe, and that'll go for the whole length of from I think it's January 14 through to February 14. So on Valentine's night, I'll release this sculpture in its finished state, and Aaron and myself are putting together a big Valentine's night so that we can present another sanctum within the art on romance. So that's an ongoing part of the Treasure the Erotic work.
I will be waiting for the photos from the events.
I will send them to you.
Yes, thank you. I can just imagine how I will feel when I see your artworks in real life. Because my heart was beating faster when I saw just the pictures, and I can imagine.
Well, I know when I saw you start to follow me on Instagram, and I looked at the amazing work that you do, and it's really inspiring. I mean, I'm looking at because I've got a gallery in the United States that started to represent me, the ACCA gallery in Beverly Hills, and it's my first step into America. And prior to COVID, we were looking at getting into Miami for the Basel, not probably within the Basel in the first year, but being within some galleries in Miami during Basel. But unfortunately, that all come to a head with the lockdowns and the COVID. And a lot of my work from this series, plus my chess set that I made, is now still in America. And I'm not actually able to go there and get it. So it's kind of like my babies are on the other side of the world.
Oh my God, I just thought this, my babies. I wanted to say this. Yes,
that's how I feel, like I work so hard on all that work, and it's safe. It's all very safe, but it's kind of funny when you're not able to actually go back to your work and talk to people and show the work. It's a difficult time, not just for myself, but for all artists. And it's a tough one at the moment. And let's hope after this year, if the vaccines start to really work and we can somehow get back to some normalcy, I'm thinking 2022 is an opportunity to really start to exhibit again around the world.
Yes,
that's the plan.
We're also planning a lot of events in 22, in New York and also Paris and London and Hong Kong. So,
I saw your fairs. I'm really interested. It's really a matter of when we can travel to be able to make plans to be available. So let's pray that things will come together. And,
I'm very optimistic actually about everything.
Yeah. So are we. I mean, Aaron and myself talk about it a lot. And I mean, he's a lot younger than me. Aaron's 30 and I'm in my later 50s, but we both think similar. And we're very excited by the contemporary art market in the United States. So it's something that I really want to explore and dive into. And, my inspiration comes from fantastic artists like Damon Hirst and Jeff Koons. And, you see that kind of work, and to eventually be around that would just be amazing. So yeah, once things get better, that's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
We would really like to set up a bit of a base in the United States and
Mm-hmm.
then move to Paris, London, and get the work around the world in every way we can.
Yes, I think it would be wonderful. Like, people have to see this. Like,
Thank you.
yes, and art world is changing now, I think, and all the world is changing. So we can just like try to predict how it will be, but
Yeah,
something amazing is coming. Some
I
amazing
think so. It's
yeah.
amazing how everybody adapts. Human beings are incredible. Like even when we're up against adversity, we tend to adapt fairly quickly. Our surroundings change, but we change with that and we adapt. And I think that through this pandemic, the art world will do the same. Like very quickly, it went to the online live shows, and I think that even for artists to not just rely upon their gallery, but to be able to present themselves online and with the galleries, and so I think it will change and evolve because of COVID. But it could really be for the better, because I think at the end of the day, they'll have learnt techniques to get the work to people all over the world in different ways. And the galleries have had to be innovative, and so has the artists. So I think as bad as COVID's been, there are positives as well. So we like to remain optimistic too.
Of course. I'm also very optimistic because, like, I don't know, it's something, all this changes, something like so intriguing and fascinating about this. Like, you understand. I've heard about that, there are like few different generations, and now is generation of revolution is coming. Like,
Sure.
world is going to change, and I'm kind of, yes, revolution. Let's do this.
It's music. It's music to an artist's ear, isn't it? That we do have change, and I think that's the beautiful thing about art. And when you look at the different styles of art throughout the centuries, how they've changed. Like Warhol. I really was inspired by Andy Warhol in that he come from a commercial background, and then
Yes.
he was kind of disregarded a little when he first presented his work, and people didn't understand it, and it became the pop art that we know and love, and how that then spurred a generation of artists. And you see that with the Banksys and the street art, the urban art. So it's forever changing, forever growing, and for me to be a part of that and make my own way with my own style, I'm very much about not wanting to copy other work. I'm very much about setting my own style. And I'd really like to bring to the art world the combination of the jewellery and the art together. So sculptures like this one with stones set in it, and something that you don't normally see in sculpture. So that's what I hope to bring more of in the future. So I've got a whole list of ideas. Just time's always the enemy. The older we get, the more that enemy rises.
Yes.
I better work fast.
Yes, actually, when I remember, like, you can see usually like still lifes skeletons, like, and that means this kind of still lifes calls veritas is is vanitas, and the skull, the meaning is memento mori. Like,
yes.
The life is short, you have to remember about death.
Yes, exactly. We see that a lot with the Mexican imagery. You see that portrayed beautifully with the way they do the skull art. And I've also done that in a piece of work that I've done with Treasure the Erotic. It's called King's Remains. And when I was considering that work, I've created an erotic object that has a skull and the spine. But what that was, it's obviously a sexual object, but it's about when somebody, like say Marilyn Monroe, is no longer with us, but her sexual energy still exists. So there's our sex and our energy lives beyond the grave. We may, as mortals, may be gone, but that energy is still here. So I wanted to put that into that piece of art. And you see that with the Egyptian kings; they bury themselves with their treasures. So all of these thoughts were coming in when I made that piece. And yeah, so I've tried to cover as much as I can in the different sanctums.
Yes, actually, I was also thinking about Marilyn Monroe today. I was listening to her, some of her songs, and I just remember that
Amazing stories.
she's so like, I know that she was training and working hard to like develop this sexual, like this image, Marilyn Monroe,
Sure.
actually, like,
Yeah.
and yes, it's very interesting. Oh my
But isn't it
God.
amazing? Like I don't know how old Marilyn would be now if she was still alive. Probably over 100 years old. But and it's amazing when we don't think of somebody of that age to be sexual, but she still is. Her memory, like she left us too young,
Yes.
but it's her soul and her spirit and her energy is still here, and that'll carry on for centuries, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, and you see that with, if you know, because a lot of times in Hollywood, a lot of the plastic stuff comes out and it's not too nice. But stories like Marilyn Monroe and James Dean and these icons are quite unique because we're left with that beautiful memory, and it's a very human thing, and it's generational. You know, kids today still look at Marilyn Monroe as this beautiful woman. So that in that light, it's quite beautiful.
Yes, it's an icon, actually. Yes,
Yeah,
icon of sensuality and like feminine
absolutely.
energy, and yes, I can understand. That's why I like to watch these old movies with Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh yeah,
So,
Audrey Hepburn. I mean, how she's gorgeous. You know,
yes,
it's just yeah. I'm like that too. I love. Yeah, it's a shame we've got more superheroes now. Our modern movies are all based on the superheroes, and that's good. That's a new form of culture. But you know, for a guy my age, it's kind of a bit different. But the young kids, they love that. You know, yeah. To me, I'm not really into the Superman, the Batman films. You know, although I love Batman as a kid, but yeah, I prefer some of the old Hollywood classics. I think they're beautiful.
something more sophisticated and like, you know.
Yeah, they were. They were definitely more sophisticated, and more time was spent creating them. And I think that now it's not just about making money; it was about making a beautiful film. You know, and Hollywood still does that on occasions. It just makes such beautiful films. It's like the Queen's Gambit with Netflix.
Oh, actually, yes, I wanted to ask about this. Oh,
Oops, I've gone in the dark. Sorry. Can you still? You can't see me. You see my light there? Hold on.
I see your.
I'll just get some help, Aaron.
Reflecting the light.
I am still here. Someone in the gallery's turned the lights out. I'm terribly sorry. I'll see if they'll turn it back on for me.
No problem. I wanted to ask about Queen's Gambit, and you have an incredible artwork like this. Your chess figures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm in the dark. It won't take. I think they'll fix it in a few minutes. Somebody's obviously tripped a switch somewhere. Yeah, the Queen's Gambit. I mean, it's an interesting story, that one. I created the chess set, my chess set, the Pearl Royale, back. I first put pen to paper to design that work. Someone's got a light on me.
Sorry, we have a power outage. My apologies. Of all times, eh?
It looks more mysterious now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Got photographer here.
Thank you, Aaron. Oh, here we go. We're back. Oh no, not quite. We'll blame it on the COVID.
Yes, everything blame.
Yeah. So basically, with the Queen's Gambit, there's some similarities there that are quite interesting. It would have been 2008 that I first came up with the idea to create a chess set. That was I wanted to really humanise the chess set, and I was working with beautiful South Sea pearls. My son was a pearl diver, very dangerous. Like they get dragged under the ocean by big vessels, and they pick up shell off the bottom of the ocean 20 metres down, and quite dangerous work. So my whole family was, we lived in a town called Broome in the northwest of Western Australia, which is a big pearling town. So around that period, I come up with the idea of creating this chess set because I played chess as a kid, and I could see the heads of the pieces, the black and the white pearl, and that was my first inspiration to create that. Then I knew that with chess, to actually have a chess set that's allowed to be used in a world championship, it has to be a Staunton chess set. So you see a lot of artists do chess sets with dragons and wizards and those, and I didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to be very traditional, but I wanted to bring it to life. So my concept was to keep it within this Staunton feel and look, but embellish it so that the pieces actually come to life. So I created the Queen and the King with proper crowns and jewellery. And I just went crazy. I just kept putting more and more diamonds and more stones, and ended up 513 carats. And so there's 20,000 stones. So I got a bit silly. And when I was designing it, I'm thinking, who would buy this? This is just it's going to cost an absolute fortune to actually create it and sell it and the value of it. So I kept the idea for a long time. It was just something that I kept thinking one day. And through our business, and I've got some great partners with me in the jewellery business, we decided, I said, look, I really want to create this piece of art. And they said, let's do it. So we created it, and it was just joy to do. So we first exhibited it in America, in Beverly Hills in August 2019. Unbeknownst to me, Netflix was creating a series called The Queen's Gambit. I had no idea about The Queen's Gambit whatsoever. And the interesting story is that they too, back in 2008, started the concept of turning that into a movie. So here's these two groups, like myself and them, on each different side of the planet, with a similar concept of creating something really special for chess. And we launched it virtually at the same time.
Wow.
And it's so strange. And Heath Ledger, the famous Australian actor, he comes from the city that I live in here in Perth. And it was going to be, he was going to actually direct the movie on the Queen's Gambit or whatever they were going to call it back then. So there's all these little sort of synergies. And I actually knew Heath's grandfather quite well. And so there's just all this sort of connection, and now here we are. We've got the Queen's Gambit, and I've released the Pearl Royale chess set, and it's getting great coverage around the world. I've had a fair bit of media on the set, and we were going to take it to Basel, but unfortunately with the COVID, we weren't able to. So yeah, it's a lovely body of work. It's obviously my masterpiece. I love it a lot. And it's over 10 years of work. So my next opportunity with that is to get it into Paris. And I've been talking with a lovely lady in Paris, a big socialite there, who loves the game of chess. And she's helping me put together a tournament that will have the world's best players, hopefully, playing on my chess set. So that would be just the ultimate dream. So we're hoping maybe 2022, if we can get past COVID, that could become a reality. So that will be very, very special.
I can imagine this.
Neither can I. To me, it's the biggest dream. Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be a special day.
Yes.
It'll be a very humbling experience.
Well, the people who will play this with these figures, they will just be distracted. I know it.
I'm worried when they lose. The king has to be thrown over. Yeah. I'm going just gentle.
Yes, it's like stop. Like,
just gentle.
Okay.
But I mean, I really hope that we can do that, and I think that would just be, as an artist, that would be just a wonderful moment if I could make that happen. Yeah,
I believe you can do this.
Yeah, I think so, and getting the support. Like, I've been very lucky that I've had so many beautiful messages from around the world on that piece of art from some fairly well-known people, and it's been very humbling and very inspiring. So I'm looking forward to what we can do with that this year, and then coming into 2022. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know that you like contemporary artists like Jeff Koons and Damien Hirst. Who else is your favorite artist? Like maybe from old masters or maybe contemporary artists.
I do love Picasso's work. I think, and probably my favourite from the past would be Salvador Dali. Aaron and myself had the most amazing experience. There's a gallery in Beverly Hills called Gallery Michael, and the gentleman who owned it was an elderly gentleman called Michael, and unfortunately, he's recently passed away. But we got to spend 2 hours with Michael, and Michael was a friend of Salvador Dali. He's got some of the, probably I think one of the biggest collections of Dali work in his gallery in Beverly Hills. It's just phenomenal. So Aaron and I had the pleasure of speaking to Michael for over 2 hours, and even his staff said he never talks to anyone for that long. Like, he really loved you guys, and it was kind of a very special moment. And he was telling us some of the crazy stuff that Dali would do, and explaining his work in infinite detail because he was such an expert on Dali. So, one funny story he told me that he said that Michael gave Salvador an idea once. He said, I went to Dali with an idea for a piece of art. And he put the idea forward to Dali, and Dali said, Michael, don't be stupid. You are merely a carrier pigeon. You have brought my idea back to me from across the Atlantic. And Michael loved it. He said, yes, Dali was saying, it's not your idea, it's my idea. You've merely brought it back. You're just a carrier pigeon. So it was and you can imagine like the moustache and how that would have played out. I mean, just phenomenal. So to have that time with Michael, because he was in his 80s, he was an elderly gentleman, and just the experience that he would have had in art and the masters of art. For me, it was mind blowing. So yeah, it was just one of my treasured moments. So probably his work because of the surrealism and the conceptual thinking. I love conceptual thinking artists. Probably the modern ones, Banksy, but I love Damien's work, Damien Hirst's work. I think just that outside of the box thinking that some people go, is it art? Isn't it art? I love when they ask that question. It's like my work. People will look at some of the erotic pieces I make and they go, is it art? Look, everything's art. It's really a perception of how it is. And I know when Andy Warhol, you look back at the old films, when he did the Campbell soup cans and people were confused. I just love that about art. I love that art can do that. So probably out of the really well-known artists, Damien Hirst is probably the one that really inspires me most because of his conceptual thinking, and Salvador Dali with the surrealism. And with Jeff Koons, I think his work is just the finishing and the scope of his work is just phenomenal. I mean, these balloon dogs. I saw one in Singapore, quite a large one. It was in Singapore. It was just gorgeous. And being somebody that works in metal, I'm looking for a fault. I'm looking for a flaw. I'm really studying this work. I'm going, there's got to be one little blemish. There wasn't. It was just so beautiful. Oh, I couldn't find anything. It was just so beautiful. I mean, the quality of Koons' work is just insane. So that, for me, really inspires me to see somebody that takes that much detail and care in the work. So there's some of the bigger artists, and of course, there's so many other artists. Like myself, I don't collect a lot of art, but what I try and do is, if I see a lot of younger artists, I like to buy their work. There's a really a beautiful artist here in Perth, a lovely girl called Ellen here in Western Australia, and I bought a piece of art from her. And it just had such a deep, sentimental, emotional feeling to it. So as I grow and my art grows around the world, that's probably my quest will be, if I invest in art, it will probably be younger artists' work and just exploring their ideas and I think that's something that will excite me a lot.
Yes, there's
and
so many.
the potential in young people is just incredible.
Yes, there are so many interesting young artists actually, and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
uh,
And creating new work, you know, not just sort of following. There's a lot of artists now that will see like street art and then they'll just, of course, the galleries probably say, hey, make it like this and it'll sell.
oh,
You get a lot of that. And I think I'm looking for younger artists that really want to explore their own realms and their own, and hopefully the galleries will back that and support it, not just think, well, no, do this work because that sells. And you look at the great galleries like Gagosian, you know, it would be an honour to be in a Gagosian gallery, but to look at how he has taken the risk on artists, you know, and he like Basquiat, you know, when he saw his work, he took the risk.
yes.
And I admire that. I admire galleries that are prepared to really back the artists and take that gamble.
Yes,
So
it depends on
yeah,
the
that's what I
gallery.
hope for younger artists.
It depends very much on galleries, the galleries. I'm just reading the book about Leo Castelli, and
Oh yeah, with the banana.
no, yeah,
No, sorry.
no, Leo Castelli. Do you know this?
No, I'm not familiar. Sorry.
Leo, it's a gallery, very a famous gallerist, Leo Castelli.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yes,
I have heard
he
of it.
was
Yep.
the one who opened, like, presented pop art to the Europe.
Ah, of course. Yeah, in Europe.
Yes, in Europe, and I'm just reading this book, and he was so dedicated to to open up the artists, to support them, and like not to just everything for money. He was even like losing money at some point. Sometimes like he was not the businessman. He was art lover, and he yes, and
it's a brave thing to do. It's
yes, but you know. I don't. I think that in future it will be like to concentrate only on money, and it's not the best way to do things, and especially in art world. And artists, they actually can feel these people who are like want just to make money. Somehow they are sensitive to them, and they can feel. I'm here in Japan. I was also like I met such people, like, and you know, I don't even know the very good gallery in Japan. Like,
I've got to exhibit in Japan.
Yes, that's why I like to work directly with artists, and I think it's like it's easier to connect and tune in, and like and that's why, because
it's such an important thing for the gallery and the artist to connect in, so that they both understand. You know, I mean, there's always commercial realities in life, but if you get that connection with a gallery, it's like my guy in Beverly Hills. He loves art, Carlos Benitez. He's generally just such an art lover, and he's well known around Los Angeles. You know, and you've got to connect with people that really genuinely love art. You know, it would be wonderful to be with the biggest galleries and stuff like that, but I think what's more important is to connect with a gallery that really gets the work and wants to work with you and doesn't try to guide you or push you in a direction. It's a bit like music, you know. I remember I was watching a documentary on Nine Inch Nails, the band Nine Inch Nails, and the lead guy out of Nine Inch Nails was saying that Jimmy Iovine, the big record producer, basically come to him, and because he had another record producer prior that was not really cooperative with him. And then when Jimmy Iovine he said, what do you want? What do you want to do? He said, just leave me alone. Let me go and make my music and leave me alone, and then I'll give it to you. So he did. He let him go and make the music, and it's a success story. And I think, you know, to have that relationship where you have the trust between the gallery and the artist, it's very much like the record company and the musician, and let them be what they are. Don't try and control or mold them or put them in a box. And you know, so for me, at this age in my life, I refuse to be put in a box. I'm making what I make because I make it because I love it, and you know, I don't need all the jewels in the world. I mean, I can create them anyway, but but I
You
don't need
have
it.
a lot.
I don't need that in my life. You know, I get the most joy out of just making beautiful art, and I've been very lucky. I'm blessed. I've raised 4 beautiful children, so I don't need big mansions, and I don't need all that. I just want to make beautiful art, and so that's my journey for the rest of my life. Obviously, it costs money to do the type of work I do, so
I
it's
can
helpful if you
imagine.
do sell it. So, but that's the real essence of it is just to continue to make beautiful art.
Yes, and I'm sure that it influences people very much, like
Thank
me,
you.
for example.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I'm afraid that soon, like we will have the 1 hour of the life and it will turn off. I'm so
Okay. Yep.
grateful for this talk. You cannot imagine how I'm excited and like full of energy and inspiration. Oh my God, I will be waiting
Thank you
for.
so much for the opportunity. You know, because
Mhm.
you know, I looked at what you do and it's fantastic, and I
Yes.
love Japan. I love Japan. I want to reach out more
Mm.
within Japan, and I know you're doing great work in Europe as well. So once we get past the COVID issues, one of the first stops will be Japan.
Oh.
I've got some beautiful friends there, and a gentleman called Nakayama who is
Mhm.
quite high up in luxury lifestyle magazines. He's a publisher.
Mhm.
He's a very big supporter of mine. So we've been talking behind the scenes about how we can then first exhibit again in Japan once everything is over with the COVID. So hopefully maybe 2022 that can be a reality, and I'd love to meet you in person, and yeah,
Yes,
let's see what we can do there.
me too. I will be very happy to meet you, and I wish you all luck in your creation
Thank
activities.
you, Oksana. Thank you very much.
So thank you
Thank
very
you
much
so
for
much.
that. Yes, thank you. So, and thank you very
Okay.
much to everyone who was watching our talk. I will save it
Hello.
so everyone can watch one more time. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.